Well, goodness sakes. Well, we had a little pause there. What's happening, Cowboys Nation? It's Thursday, and I promise I have not started with the thirsty part yet. We just had a little negotiation going on back here in the backside. Um, Another win. Holy
Another
cow!
win. Another win. It's been a
Another
victory
win.
week, 3-1 after a rough start. It seems like whenever we lose week 1, we always rebound really well over the last few years. So, hey, if that continues, I'm fine with losing week 1.
Right, right. And if they want to make it Tampa Bay each time, whatever, they can do whatever they want.
I'm
But
tired of losing to Brady, though.
well,
Hmm.
I think, yeah. And if Giselle has her way or not, I think we've seen the last time that we're going to see him, but who knows?
Yeah.
That's their stuff. But it was a good game. Great
It
game.
was, yeah, it really was. Defense showed out again. This is a defensive team, which is really, really weird to say. Um, when was the last time we could say that the defense was better than the offense?
Been a
It's
long
been a
time.
while.
Been a long
Maybe
time.
2003.
Maybe. Yeah, probably.
It's been a while. So, yeah, the defense is stepping up. Defensive line pass rush is amazing. Secondary has played really good. Diggs has played outside of his mind, swatting balls into the stands. Yeah,
Donovan
it's
Wilson.
been fun. Hmm.
I cannot sing the praises of Donovan Wilson more right now.
Right? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Donovan Wilson has stepped up and played great. He's flying around the field, diagnosing offenses really well, and just making plays on the ball. He 2 weeks ago against the Giants, he missed some tackles, he took some bad angles, but this week he against Washington, he really tightened that up, and he had a really good day against Washington. So
Right,
um,
right. And kudos to this offensive line. Tyler Smith doing his thing out there. Would like to see a little bit more Jason Peters. Would we have 6 more snaps?
yeah,
I mean,
this
we
this
can
offensive
increase that a
line
little more.
is playing well. They got beat up a little bit against Washington, to be honest with you, but that their defensive line is one of the top defensive lines in the league. We saw Zach Martin
I
get
wasn't
beat.
out there.
Yeah, we saw Zach Martin get beat a few times. McGovern struggled a little bit. They just have a really strong defensive line. We couldn't really get anything going at all in the running game, but we kept plugging away. And again, this quick passing game that we have switched to has really helped this offensive line with not allowing pressures, because we're not giving the defensive lineman time to really get to Cooper Rush, and Cooper Rush has been very good at controlling his time in the pocket and getting rid of the ball when he needs to get rid of the ball, not taking sacks, and making the correct read.
Right, and I believe that's something we're going to have to take into this next game, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but yeah, no, overall, fantastic. I guess Diggs decides when games end. He's just gonna end the games.
That's right.
We're done. It's over.
Why is it that Washington felt on like every third down or end of the game play when they needed to make a play, they decided, let's try Diggs.
I mean,
Let's test Diggs. And I
and
guess
has Terry ever worked against Diggs?
his rookie year, he burnt
Yeah,
Diggs for a deep
right,
touchdown his rookie year,
right.
talked a
But
lot of trash, and then since then it has been next to nothing. I
right,
think Diggs took it personally, and McLaurin's been nothing against the Cowboys ever since.
right. And this defensive line, you know, we're always talking the praises of Micah and Tank, but Armstrong and Fowler,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Look,
absolutely fantastic.
this defensive line all down the line has been great. You mentioned Micah, you mentioned Tank. Those are the leaders. But like you said, Fowler, Armstrong have played really well. Look interior. Neville Gallimore had a really good game. You look at Oso Digizua has played great this year. Professor
Mhm.
O has been screaming from the top of the mountain about Bohanna, who has played
Mhm.
this year. This defensive line has just been really, really good overall. Now we do have some things we will talk about in a little bit that need to be cleaned up, but overall they've played really, really well.
Right, and I have to mention the penalties or the lack of penalties this week was
Mm.
very nice to see.
It
I
was
mean,
strange because I'm so used to when that yellow flag comes out and that yellow
right,
graphic comes and says
it's on us.
flag. I'm like, dang it, what do we do?
Right,
So it was a nice change of pace, not to be like, to be like, oh, okay, that wasn't us. All right, let's
right,
do it.
right, right. Yeah, no, every single time. Even, like, there were times I was like, "Oh, no, it's gonna be holding," and it was, like,
Hmm.
called on the defense, and I was like, "Oh,
Yep,
all
it's
right." Can if
really important for that game. 2 of Rush's interceptions were called back
ri
on penalties.
right,
And neither one of those penalties were on the guy who made the interception.
right, right,
So huge plays that really turned the momentum of the game, because I think on one of them, the first interception, we actually went down and scored on
yeah,
that drive. So,
yes,
and they would have had the ball like on the 30-yard line because it was very early in the drive. So yeah, huge momentum
right,
shifts with flags.
yeah, and I would just like to request that officiating team the rest of the season, if you
Yeah,
could,
right.
please.
You're
We like
100%
that
right.
one.
100% right, Professor O. 100% right. We got post-traumatic flag syndrome.
We do, and that goes back to, I think it was the Chargers game in preseason. Their gloves and their shoes had yellow on it, and every time I'd see it kinda go by, I
Mhm.
was, like, thinking it was a flag. I was like, "No!" But
Curled
yeah,
up in a
that
little
it
ball,
goes
yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah, that goes right to what Professor O was saying. So, are you ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready. Yeah, I just
You
hopefully
ready?
everybody else is ready.
Right? So, um, there was some very questionable things said this week,
Mhm. And some
and
people needed to confess.
I I made a big one. So, guess what, kids? It's time for midday mass.
Okay. So, midday mass is here. I had some people come and confess to me this week. Confess what they did wrong. First was Preston Jerry. I apologize if I pronounced your last name wrong. But he admitted to dropping the Dallas Cowboys defense in fantasy for the Cleveland Browns.
Ouch. That's painful.
That is rough. That is rough. You are forgiven. Outlaw Cowboy, he wanted to confess. It was not a huge confession. It was a minor one, but he did want to confess. Outlaw Cowboy did say, he said that the Commanders would score at least 17 points. Didn't quite get there. He wasn't giving the Cowboys defense that much credit, but he did want to confess, and you are forgiven. Chris Bacon came out and said that he believed Micah Parsons would have 3 sacks. Now, a lot of us believed that. A lot of us felt that Micah Parsons was going to have that rebound game, because he said he was getting made fun of for having 0 sacks against the Giants. He wanted to get back on it. Unfortunately, again, Micah Parsons just opened it up for other people, and Commanders did have a quick passing game that they implemented, so they got the ball out quick. But you are forgiven for that. Our very own Dominic White, with probably the most difficult confession. He stated that Wentz would have one of his better games against the Dallas Cowboys defense last week. That's a hard one to forgive. That is a hard one to forgive. But you are forgiven. Professor O says that Spoonie told people to sign Blaine Gabbert in fantasy football. I don't know if I can forgive that one.
We still love you, Spoon.
We still love you, Spoon. And last but not least, unfortunately, our very own Cam. What is your confession?
We did not, in fact, get 40 burgers.
What was your final score prediction?
It was 42-6.
42-6. Like, not quite there with a 25-10 victory.
The defense was close.
The defense was close.
There was two scores for them on the defense. I just had one of them wrong.
You are forgiven.
Thank you very much.
Oh, this is a good one from Professor O's confession.
Yes.
I had this same thing, so I'm guessing I'm gonna forgive myself. But thought Gallup would be back after Halloween. You are forgiven. That surprised us a lot, and he played great. And he said that after the game, he said that he thought it would be worse. He thought the recovery would be worse. He thought he'd be in more pain. And it wasn't, and it gave him a lot of confidence moving forward. And we talked about that last week. That's a huge thing with an injury like this, is your ability to have that confidence. And it's a mental game now. It's not just physical. Like, you got to be mentally prepared to be like, I can cut on this knee. I can go up and jump on this knee and land on this knee. And the fact that he feels that confident and that well to be able to say, hey, I can do it. I'm not worried about it anymore. That's a big leap. So
it was.
You are forgiven, Professor O.
Yeah, and you saw that with that first catch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Said it with his chest.
Oh yeah, and it's funny if you go back and look at the touchdown. I'll try to pull it up and post it on Twitter. But if you go back and look at the touchdown where he caught it, him and CeeDee Lamb are running like kind of parallel with each other, but he outruns CeeDee Lamb in the back. And when the ball gets thrown, it goes past CeeDee Lamb, and you can see CeeDee Lamb's body language kind of like, it kind of deflates for a second, like, oh, I couldn't get to it. And then he sees Gallup catch it, and he's like, oh, hey, and he throws up his hands because he had no idea Gallup was behind him in the back of the end zone. So it was actually pretty funny to watch CeeDee Lamb's reaction to Gallup's touchdown there.
Definitely.
MG is back. That's right.
He's back. And thank you, and in good time. And we'll talk about that in a little bit for this next game. Okay, so we are now going into week 5. No Dak.
No Dak.
There was reasoning in the beginning not to put Dak on IR. We are now at the point in time that Dak could have gone on IR.
Yes.
Do we feel, so we've taken up that they've had to play, musical chairs with the practice squad. And in it, we ended up losing your vanilla gorilla, Ridgeway, in it all.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Do you think it was a good call to not put him on IR? Or should they have been more realistic about the extent of the injury now that we know he's not playing this weekend because he hasn't thrown all week? And there might be a question about him playing next week now.
Yeah, so it's really a balancing test. You've got to balance it out, okay? And it depends on how far this lingers into the future, really. If he doesn't play next week against the Eagles, then it was a bad choice. Just plain and simple, it's a bad choice. But if he can make it back by the Eagles game, you got to do a balancing test. So you look at it and say, okay, was it worth, on one hand, you have Dak is not, if you put him on IR, he's not able to practice, and we didn't have to play the musical chairs. We probably are able to keep Ridgeway, and Dak comes back when he's after this week and he's ready to go. He can practice and he can play. That's on one balancing scale. On the other balancing scale is you have exactly what's happened. We've had to play the musical chairs. We lost Ridgeway, but Dak has been kind of practicing. He has made some throws in practice. Yes, his thumb swelled up afterwards, but he made some throws. He's been practicing throwing with a smaller size ball, and that he's able to grip, and he's made some throws, and he's done some stuff in practice. You would not have been able to do that if Dak was on IR. So it's really that balancing scale. Do you think that that little bit of practice with those little bit of throws with the smaller ball is more beneficial than it would have been to have put him on IR and him not be able to practice, and we possibly, because we don't know exactly what their decisions would have been, but possibly
Right.
kept Ridgeway. So it's really a balancing, and that again, that all depends on if Dak can go next week against the Eagles. If
Yeah.
he can't, then
And
it's just a wash.
right. And then also, not that I guess it was a unfortunate circumstance that McQuaid went down with the
Mm-hmm.
torn pectoral. And because they were going to have to do even more musical chairs to
They were.
bring up Greer off of the practice squad because he's already been elevated 3 times.
Yeah, that was a
So,
big question that we also talked about, is that, okay, if Dak can't go against the Rams, then we no longer can elevate Greer off the practice squad. What's going to happen? Who's going to get cut? Unfortunately, / maybe fortunately, depending on how you look at it, McQuaid had his season-ending injury. I never want to see anybody injured. I hope the best for him and a quick recovery. But that did open up with putting him on IR, did open up a roster spot, which allowed them to move Greer up without having to get rid of anybody else. So it did save that spot, like you said. And what would have happened? Who would have been the guy? Who's the guy
right.
that they cut? Because it can't be a practice squad guy. It has to be a guy on the active roster to be able to bring Greer up, because you have to have that second quarterback on the roster. It's probably one of the guys who've been inactive, maybe a Nashawn Wright.
Right.
It would have been one of them, because you had to find that spot. Now with McQuaid gone, you buy yourself 3 more weeks, because
Yeah.
we signed a long snapper to the practice squad. We can elevate him 3 times. So you buy yourself 3 weeks. So we'll have to see. And then probably when Dak comes back and we have to move that long snapper up to the active roster, probably Real Greer is going to be the guy that's waived, and hopefully we can get him back to the practice squad.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's been dicey,
Mm-hmm.
Some things have fallen their way with this.
Yeah.
We said, we only had the one casualty. So,
But just give your opinion on, the balance scale. Say Dak does come back next week against the Eagles. Do you think it was worth it for that little bit of practice, or do you think it's not worth it for that practice?
it's kind of a hard one. I
It
mean,
is.
if he comes back and plays well, then of course it was a good idea.
Yeah.
If he comes back and he's not ready and Rush has to come in to complete the game or something like that, then you've got to wonder. So, and
I
it
think
seems like, why is it like with Zeke and Dak, they've pushed these injuries and really pushed them to get back.
mm-hmm.
Where you look at some of these other players last year, Tank, Osa, Randy Gregory, Gallimore. I mean, they gave them the time.
Gallimore a lot of time.
Right.
His injury was like a 8-week injury, and he came back like at 11 or 12 or something like that.
And what was it, Tristan Hill? There was another one.
Oh, Tristan Hill was forever. He didn't practice. He didn't practice until right before the season started. Yeah, we were wondering if he was going to go on IR.
Right.
So yeah, they've done it. They've let other people relax. I think maybe the importance they see with Dak and Zeke on the team is they're like, hey, we can't. We need these guys back. I think it might be worth it if you, like you said, Dak can come back and go. I honestly think that they believe Dak could be ready for this game. I honestly think that they did. And that unfortunately Dak had a little bit more swelling than they anticipated after he tried to throw the ball. And it kind of threw a wrench in their plans. But I think they honestly believed that he could. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way.
Right. Okay, let's talk about this. And I love this defense with all my heart. It may be one of my favorites.
It's Doomsday Reborn.
Right. I've heard people try and say Legion of Boom 2.0. Nope, we are Doomsday. This is Doomsday 2.0, that Dan Quinn is getting his army together to call themselves. And he did say something the other day that I believe it was Bobby Belt asked him, is do you see this as elite defense? Do you see this as your next Legion of Boom? And he said that, he can always tell about 10 to 12 weeks after these guys have gotten together.
Mm-hmm.
And he says he hasn't quite gotten that feeling, but he's close.
Yeah,
So,
I can see.
But let's talk about the one thing.
The one area that you have to
The
question,
one area, it's our run defense.
and it has
And
been
they're
for a long
putting
time.
some and they're putting some yards up on us this year too. So,
Yeah,
what do
but
we do? How do we do? What do we do?
the run defense is, I've noticed an issue with the run defense is that our defensive line is so focused on getting to the quarterback. They are so focused on the pass rush, which is amazing. That unfortunately at times they completely ignore the running back with the ball running right by them. And I would say that's the one weakness of this defensive line is that sometimes they're not disciplined in their pass rush, that they don't realize, hey, that was a handoff and we're going to we need to stop the run. And it's been unfortunate. And it's not always. It's a weird. It's not like we're consistently just like, hey, we're giving up 8 yards, 9 yards, 10 yards, 6 yards, 20 yards. It's not like that. It's, hey, we'll give up 2, 3, 2, 1, -1, 3, 47.
Right.
And it's like, and that's killing the average and killing the total yards. And that happens a couple times a game. So you get 2 or 3 30+ yard runs or 20+ yard runs, and it builds up that total yards rather quickly. And that's the issue is we lead the league in explosive run plays, giving up explosive run plays. And that's the main issue is we have to be able to stop those explosive run plays because it's not the every down run plays that are really killing us, but those explosive ones that are and that's why I say I'm not as worried because that's why it's not turning into points for other teams, or it's not killing us and turning into touchdowns. I should rather say, because when they usually get those runs, they usually get a field goal on us or something like that. But it's not killing us and turning into touchdowns because we've only given up one touchdown a game.
Right.
And
only one of them rushing? That one was Saquon?
So. I think it was only
the Saquon one.
Yeah, I think
was
only one was
rushing.
rushing. And so that's why I'm saying I'm not as worried because it is just coming on these explosive plays and they can't do anything afterwards because it's just this one-off explosive play every once in a while. So I'm not overly concerned. Like it's like we're going to be like the 49ers game in the playoffs last year where there was a consistent 7+ yard run almost every time they ran. It's not like that. So I have some encouragement in that and knowing, hey, if we just can cut down on these explosive runs a few times a games, then we could have a pretty good, I'm not saying the best, but we could have a decent enough run game where we're not giving up a lot of that many yards and it makes the defense look a lot better because the passing defense is insane.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's we're good there. Yeah. And I don't know if it's going to help having J-Ron come back because he does serve as that kind of extra linebacker role in that way. So
yeah, so Curse coming back is huge. He's another guy who gets a lot of tackles for loss because he comes off the edge a lot and he's very good at getting those tackles for losses on runs. He's very good at reading defense and making those plays, like you said, playing in that hybrid linebacker safety role. So I expect a good game, an improvement once he comes back with that 3-headed monster, like he tweeted out with him, Dono, and Hooker.
I love that.
I expect some improvement. And then as some people have mentioned in the chat with Clark, I don't know how much Clark is going to play this year. I really don't. I know he's back in practicing. We've started the 3-week window on him. So for him to be activated, how much he's going to play, I don't know. He might come in as a special teams guy at first. I have big and high expectations for his career. I
Right.
just don't know how much he's going to play this year and affect the game this year. But his potential is extremely high.
Right.
I'm very high on him as a player.
Yeah. And I've seen, and even today on Twitter I saw some comments of that he and Jabril are going to come in and they're going to just take over for LVE and Barr.
Not this year.
Not this season. Not this season. Yes, they very well probably are their replacements for next
Mm-hmm.
season. But we're going to keep it real.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
Jabril's able to play right now, and he's not taking either of their spots.
yeah,
So, and Dan Quinn we trust.
yeah. Look
That
at LVE and Barr are both on 1-year deals right now. They whether we re-sign them or not, I don't know. But we do have some depth behind him now. Devin Harper looked good in preseason. He's not playing, but he's looked good in preseason. Jabril Cox, we all know the potential of Jabril Cox. Yes, the injury last year set him back, so his development has been pushed pretty much a year. But we know his potential, and then obviously Clark, we know his potential as well. Just got to get them all healthy, and then I see them more as future, as the
right,
future of the linebacker position rather than this year. But I'm definitely excited for what they can bring.
right, right. Um, let's switch from the linebackers and let's talk about the safety room a little bit more, and that three-headed monster. Gotta love it. And it looks like, by all means, that Curse will be back
Yeah.
this week, which
Mm-hmm.
is fantastic because, if you look at the three of them, they all kind of serve a little bit different purpose. You've got Curse, that's the Swiss Army that can do both of them. You've got Hooker that can be playing there in the middle. And then Dono, who has just decided that, is this a contract year? Please don't let it be a contract year.
What I don't remember
let
what
it
year
be.
he was drafted, but it might be. I think he was drafted in. It might be his contract year. I think he was 18. I think he was 18, so it might be his contract year. But look, you have, in my opinion, like I said this last week, you have the best safety room in the NFL.
Right.
Because even the depth is really nice behind these three guys. So I love this safety room, and you're talking about what they can do, but in reality, all three of them could play either role.
Right.
To be honest with you, Hooker is more of your free safety guy, but he has shown that he can play in the box. He showed it last year. He's showing it this year again. He's played a little bit. He made an excellent read on a screen pass to the outside where if he didn't make that read, then that guy had plenty of room to run, but he made the tackle for loss. So he's playing good. We know what Curse can do with guarding tight ends and playing as a linebacker in the box. Donovan Wilson in the box, he's just an enforcer. He just lays the wood. He's definitely our hardest hitter and our most aggressive guy. Now, Donovan is not as great in the pass coverage, but he's not a liability either.
Exactly.
So, we have three safeties who can do it all, and that just makes it more options for Dan Quinn. Just to the defense isn't going to know which player's doing what. Like, honestly, you can line up Donovan Wilson and Jaron Curse both closer to the line of scrimmage, and then either one of them can roll back, and the other one can blitz or play the run, and the offense isn't going to know which one's going to do it.
Right.
And
right.
it's really it's got to be fun for Dan Quinn to sit there and just be like, look what I have and what I can do with these guys. It's
especially when he has Izzy and Bell sitting on the bench.
That's what I'm saying is their depth is insane with Izzy and Bell. Because Izzy's been playing really well with Curse out.
Right.
So there's
no.
Yeah, it's insane. The
now, let
safety
me
room is
ask
insane,
you
which is crazy. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it is crazy to think as a Dallas Cowboys fan, we are sitting here talking about the depth and how good our safeties are. Because that hasn't happened since Roy Williams and Darren Woodson roamed the secondary in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So, I don't know if you listen to the bites from the sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
But Hooker came walking up, and both Barr and LVE was like, man, great communication. Mm-hmm. Curse comes back. Does Hooker keep the green dot?
Ooh, that's a good question because they've both been really good at it.
Right.
And would it matter?
I don't know. I mean, if Hooker's rolling with it pretty well and the guys are loving the communication,
Yeah.
do you take that off of, because we saw when Micah had it, it wasn't the best situation for him, and you could tell when they took it away.
Hmm.
Do we just take that off of Curse and let Curse go if Hooker's handling it super well? Or
I would give it. I might give it back to Curse just
really?
because um, I think he's more of a vocal leader in the locker room and on the defense. So that might lean me to giving it back to him. But it really depends on the players. If Curse is like, nah, he's handling it, let him handle it,
Right.
or if Hooker's like, hey, I was just holding it for you, like it's back to
Yeah.
you. I don't know how they'll go with that, but we'll find out this week who has
Yeah.
the green dot. But
I
either
think
one of
it
them's fine with me.
Right, and I think it may come down to what Dan Quinn's hearing in his headset being said
Yeah,
while they're playing. He may prefer the way one of them's doing it over the other. But
yeah.
yeah, that was
Their communication on defense has just been fantastic this year.
yeah, yeah,
It really has.
yeah. If you watch, you can see them talking all the time. I mean, LVE is super vocal out there,
Mhm. He's
and
really doing well with his adjustments for the defensive line.
right,
If you don't know, you'll see it throughout a game. You probably everybody, if you watch the games, you've seen it where the line will be lined up, and then the linebacker will come and pat the defensive lineman, saying, "Hey, adjust over here. Hey, move over here." That's LVE's job most of the time, and just being able to see the blocking adjustments and say, hey, you need to move a little bit to your right or move a little bit to your left. He's been doing a great job with that, with communicating with the defensive line.
right, right. Jose, I think you're a little premature with this one. We're gonna let the guy get on the field and get acquainted with everything before we just go giving him
Yeah,
the green dot on that.
yeah. I think so, yeah.
We gonna slow
Yeah,
down just
but
a
I
little bit
I
on that
will
one. But
say one good thing about Clark is that he was the defensive leader on LSU.
right,
He was the vocal leader on LSU his senior year. So he has that potential as a guy
right,
who could come in eventually. I don't know if it's next year or 2 years or whatever, we got to let him
right,
grow and develop, learn the defense more before we can really say, hey, this is good. But he is a guy who has great leadership and is a vocal guy. So down the line, sure. But next
right.
year, it's hard to say because you're going to still have Kirsch, you're going to still have Hooker. They're both signed
Yeah,
a multi-year contracts, so you're going to have them back. Why, if it's working so well, why just take it away from them? So yeah,
right, right. Yeah, and as a rookie out there playing, let him worry about that first.
exactly. Yeah.
You know. Um, so going down, let's kind of switch gears, and we're gonna start to talk about Sunday. But let's talk about this injury report.
Mm,
You go through it. Bohana still limited. This is as of yesterday. I do not have today's practice report. I'm not even sure practice is all the way
yeah,
over.
I don't think it's come out
I
yet.
think it might have just ended. So Noah Brown full.
Full.
That's good.
That's
We
good.
like
Yeah,
that.
we
We
were
like
worried
that a
about
lot.
that, and his neck, he had some neck tightness or something like that. So it's good that
Right.
he's full and he's ready to go.
Right. Malik Hooker, something with his thumb. He was back to full.
Hmm.
And Jordan Lewis, we expected, did not practice. So we'll be looking for some more Deron Bland
Hey,
this game.
he played well. So
He did.
and he
He
played
did.
well against a really, really good slot receiver in Curtis Samuel. Curtis
Right.
Samuel's no joke. Curtis
Right.
Samuel is a really good slot receiver. So how well he played, hey, kudos to him. Give him his
Right.
flowers.
Right. And he got his first
And he
interception.
got his pick. That's right.
Yep. Conor McGovern, full.
Okay.
Dak did not practice. Dalton Schultz, back to full. And
Mm,
Donovan Wilson was limited, but my understanding it was more of a rest day just because he has been
yeah, that's
go,
what I
go,
heard too.
go.
Is that they're just managing his
Yeah.
snaps.
So the one we were a little worried about is Jake Ferguson.
Mhm.
And something, I never heard anything about it, but all of a sudden something with his knee. And so he was limited, or he did not even practice yesterday. We saw him on the field today.
He was back on the field.
So,
Yeah, he was practicing
so
today. The other one is Bohanna.
yeah,
Bohanna is
limited it right
a
now.
limited, and it's a little bit concerning to see. It's his shoulder, right?
Yes, they have it listed as neck shoulder.
Yeah. He kind of fell, and I think he fell with his arm extended, and he fell on it. So, it might be an AC joint or something like that. So just got to be careful with that. He might miss a game. I don't know. I know he's limited, but that it's kind of rough. It's rough in the trenches, so they might let him rest week. So that's a little concerning. But we have Osa, we have Gallimore, we have guys that can step up and play. The depth is really, really good along the defensive line. I have another one that I want to mention, Cam.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to ruffle some feathers out there. It's going to ruffle some feathers because it's not anytime soon, but in the future. And a Mr. Tyron Smith was out at practice working on the cords today, doing rehab already. I'm surprised he's already on the cords doing rehab. That's super surprising. Jerry Jones has been adamant that Tyron Smith will be back at some point this year, probably December. That is a huge, and we don't really have to answer it right now because it is the beginning of October, and that is 2 months away. But that is something to keep an eye on because that is a huge question on what you do down the line. And I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, Tyron Smith is down. Tyron Smith is done. His career's over. He's probably going to retire," which is completely possible that he just suits up and just doesn't really play again this year, and he retires after this year. Completely possible. But if he is 100% healthy, and again, we don't have to answer that right now, but if he is 100% healthy, it is one hell of a dilemma to sit there and say, we're going to keep a guy, when healthy, who is the top 3 left tackle in this league on the bench. That is a hell of a dilemma. And so, again,
can you imagine Zach, Peters, and Tyron all together on the same line?
So, but that's the dilemma that they might be in as we're the season's winding out and we're getting ready for playoffs.
Right.
So it's going to be a question. And I know a lot of people are passionate about, hey, we got to move towards the future. I'm passionate about playing your best players. So it's a difficult decision. It really is. So yeah, that's one we can address down the line. But I did want to mention that he is back on the field. And he is he's working on the cords, so we'll see how his rehab goes.
Right. So now the Rams overall are fairly healthy. On my list, I'm showing that Coleman Shelton did not practice yesterday. Jordan Fuller is going to be out, which is going to be a little gift for our wide receivers.
Oh yeah.
And I'm showing David Long Jr. is also banged up. But for the most part, let me see, what did David Long, he was limited. He was also limited. Taylor Rapp is also limited. So another gift there with the secondary on their part. And then David Edwards, the guard's got a concussion. He's limited. We all know that they are taking that really, really seriously now after Miami.
Yeah.
Still not very happy with you guys at this point. But so let's talk about first, okay, we're going to take a look at the Rams game and let's talk about, I'm going to save the better side that I think is for last. So we're going to talk about their defensive line against our offensive line. And can you slow down Aaron Donald? We know we can't stop him. We're not stopping him. You can slow him down. But and we've talked about this a little bit. We touched on it a little bit earlier about that quick release, I think is going to be a big key to moving the ball against these guys. Because, not only do you have Aaron Donald, but you're talking Leonard Floyd, Bobby Wagner. I mean, I can keep going on the list. They've got some dogs there. What do you see happening, and what do you think some of the keys are against this defensive line.
Yeah, the keys are again is to quick releases, those quick throws, and play action. Um, you know, making them not know when we're going to run, and getting the ball out quickly. The worst, every quarterback who plays the game admits this. Like, everybody talks about the importance of rushing the passer from the edges, having good edges to rush the passer, a war daddy, as Jerry Jones liked to say. But pretty much every quarterback will admit the worst pressure to deal with is pressure up the middle, because you can't step up into the pocket. And that's, quarterbacks like to stay in the pocket. Most quarterbacks, not every quarterback, most quarterbacks like to stay in the pocket. A quarterback like Matthew Stafford likes to stay in the pocket. So when you have that pressure up the middle, it can wreck your whole game. And that's what Aaron Donald has been doing since he came in the league. Now, yes, he's having a slower start to the season than he normally has had, but that doesn't mean he can't turn it on at any time. He is arguably the greatest defensive player of all time. So it's going to be very important for our interior line, McGovern or Peters, whoever is playing. Hopefully we're not playing
Please,
too much
I want to
musical chairs.
start Peters. I
I'm so
really
sick and
want to start
tired.
Peters.
So sick and tired of the musical chairs. But whoever's playing there, Biotish, and of course the president Martin, they have to be sound. They have to be strong, and they got to know where Aaron Donald is lining up at all times. He'll even line up at defense end every once in a while. So
right.
Tyler Smith, Steele, be ready, because this guy is a monster. So those quick releases, being able to hold him for a few seconds so Cooper Rush can get the quick releases out. Wide receivers have to get open, and that's the key. You've got to be able to slow that rush down. So we weren't very effective in the run game, but we kind of just kept going at it, and we made Washington unsure. Hey, this is the play action. Oh, I don't know. Freezing the linebackers, freezing the safety, not knowing when we're going to run or not, and it worked out. We've got to be like that again this week, because we have to we got to slow down that rush, especially with Aaron Donald up that middle.
Yeah, and one thing I saw too many times in this last game is running it up the middle, and it wasn't working. We did have a couple runs to the outside. We did have a couple runs that we were for a loss also. And so our run game actually concerns me with this group. If you look at this team, at this defense, they're a very solid, they're amazing players all the way down the line. But for some reason this year, they're just not gelling. They are not playing at all.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but going along that line of thought, Jalen Ramsey has regressed, and by a large margin. Like, he has regressed a lot.
It's like he's playing pissed all the time right now.
Last year, he did not play very well. He had an okay year. This year is even worse.
Right.
And so he's definitely not the guy who you're like, oh, he's going to erase your wide receiver or one side of the field anymore.
Right.
So whatever's going on with him, I hope it continues this week. And yeah, their defense has a lot of names on it right now, but they're not playing well, like you said.
Right. And when we start to look at our wide receivers and the secondary with them, with Jordan Fuller being out and with Long being hurt, so I don't know if they'd, put Jalen Ramsey and he shadows CD. Does that put Nick Scott on Gallup? Because I'll take that
matchup every day.
I'll take that. Exactly. And then you've got Noah Brown. Who's going to be on Noah Brown? So I think that this secondary, between the injuries, I think my dog is another dog. I think between the injuries of this secondary and the depth now that we have back at wide receiver, and it's crazy that I'm saying that we've got some depth now from game one, but the way Noah Brown has stepped up and having Gallup back, that I think it could be a pretty tough day for the Rams secondary.
Troy Hill has not been playing as well as he has in the past either.
Right.
I know he's been a little banged up. I don't know if he's going to play this week, right? Is he going to play? I don't think he is.
I don't know if he is.
I'll have to look into that. I don't know. He might be injured, to be honest with
I
you.
don't. I just pulled up their 53 man, and I don't have him listed.
He played 2 games already this year. I just don't know if
Yeah.
he's. Oh,
He
never mind. I
might.
see it. He was placed on the IR. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
I missed
Okay.
that him being placed on the IR. I apologize. So he wasn't playing very well in the first couple games, and I noticed I was kind of surprised. And then he's on the IR. So him being gone is huge. He's a very good slot cornerback.
Right. Right.
So that's another probably issue of why they're struggling with their secondary. Is one of their best guys he's injured now. So that their defense has not looked very strong this year. So
Right.
they're not the same team that won the Super Bowl.
No, and they've got to be frustrated because I'm sure they thought they were going to come out there and everybody's going to see them. Yeah, we're Super Bowl champs. And like I said, I mean, if you look, they've got great players in almost all the position groups, in almost every position, but it's just not happening.
And you got to ask yourself, how much is the elbow bothering Stafford? We heard before the season started that he had some elbow issue, I believe it was like tendonitis in his throwing elbow, and he hasn't looked as good as he did last year, honestly.
Right.
So,
and not only that, but does he know that he has any other targets besides Cooper Kupp and Higbee? Cooper Kupp and occasionally Higbee. We'll throw in a little dice like Higbee there, and that's it.
Cooper Kupp right now is on pace, and this is insane. Cooper Kupp right now is on pace to catch, not targets, to catch receptions. 178 receptions. That is insane. Like a lot of receivers don't even get that. CeeDee Lamb's never even got that many targets in a year.
Right.
Like that is insane. I think it will drop off because that's just an insane pace. It's only been 4 games, so it'll drop off. But that's crazy.
And you got to think. I mean, Cam Akers, Robinson. I can never say this guy's name. Skowronek. Did I say it right? Skowronek.
Oh yeah.
Ben. They've got to be sitting there like, hello.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm out here.
Somebody else here.
Hello.
We're running out. We're running routes too, guy.
Yeah, they're all going to change their jersey number to Cups, and so that they can get thrown the ball.
Right. Seriously, because it's Matthew Stafford is locked in. And look at, he's still producing. That's the thing, is he's locked into Kupp, but Kupp is still producing and Kupp is still getting open, which is insane because everybody knows like, hey, it's going to Kupp. So that's going to be a big challenge this week, is how do we combat that? Because look at, Diggs has stopped traveling. They have locked Diggs to the right side and Brown is on the left side. They said, okay, no more traveling. This is where you guys are. This is where you guys are going to be. So a lot of teams, as you could see, are not, except for Washington for whatever reason, are not lining up their best receiver against Diggs on the right side. They're saying, hey, we're going up against Brown. We're gonna play this matchup. So how much is Kupp going to line up out there? He lines up in the slot a lot. So DaRon Bland. Welcome to the NFL.
I was about to say.
I know you had a good game last week. I know you got your first pick, but here's Cooper Kupp, probably the best wide receiver in football. So, we're going to have to really focus on him. Getting Curse back is going to help, and with the 3-headed monster at safety, because we're going to have to bracket Kupp. We're going to have somebody over the top of him at all times, making sure that he's not beating us deep.
Right. And do you switch? In that type of scenario, if he is getting the best of DaRon Bland, are you switching Brown into the slot there where we know he plays really well?
That is honestly something that you'd have to debate doing, because if he's just taking the rookie to school, and look at this is a fifth round, I think, or 5th round rookie, like, and playing his second game.
Yeah.
going up against Cooper Kupp, you can't just leave him on that island against Cooper Kupp. You're going to have safety. And if he's still getting beat, you're going to have to adjust. Now, Brown would probably be like, obviously, you're like, oh, I want Diggs on him, but Diggs doesn't always go in the slot,
Right.
So Brown might be your best option there. And you just got to really hope for the best. And the main thing is like, this pass rush has got to get home, which they can against this offensive line.
Right. With Matthew Stafford, how bad of a day is he going to have?
Oh, he's going to have a terrible day. He's going to have a terrible day.
He's going to do Stafford type things.
You know what Stafford's going to say after this game? Stafford's going to say, like, I think Giselle is right. I think I need to spend more time with my wife and kids. I think I need to spend more time at home with my wife and kids because that pass rush, whoo.
Right. It's, yeah. I mean, we could break it down, but it's almost like wash, rinse, repeat of last week with Carson Wentz. And
this pass rush is, and
yeah.
the stuff they're doing with this pass rush, like there's a great video out there of I'll say it, Dan Orlovsky and Marcellus Wiley, who are breaking down this pass rush.
Yeah, and if you guys are looking for it, I actually retweeted it this morning. It's fantastic.
And they're breaking down how LVE caused Neville Gallimore's sack. Now, don't take anything away from Neville Gallimore because he made the rush, but it was LVE at the last second blitzing, confusing the offensive line. They didn't have chance to adjust their offensive line call. The center went to block LVE without the right guard even being aware, and Neville Gallimore just went straight through. Made the sack right away. Carson Wentz had no chance. Just the little things like that Dan Quinn is doing with this defensive line, allowing to get rushers free, and how much attention the offensive line has to pay to Micah Parsons. It's just letting other guys eat constantly. And look, it's gonna be a bad day for Matthew Stafford.
I'd like to say I'm sorry, but I'm not.
I'm not either. I want it to be be a blowout. I really do.
Absolutely. So, okay, give me your out there prediction and then give me your score prediction.
Out there prediction. Okay. I'm going to say that Micah Parsons makes up for his no sacks the back-to-back weeks, and
Just
Micah Parsons. I'm sorry, but I'm going really out there.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Micah Parsons has a 4-sack game.
I was going to say 3, so you went even further. So it's yours. Okay.
There we go.
All right. So this was my backup one, just because the Micah one was that CeeDee Lamb is going to have his way with Jalen Ramsey. And not 1, but 2 touchdowns.
I love it.
And I'm just going to put a little icing on it. And because we've seen the list out there of who could be covering Michael Gallup, Michael's going to get himself 2 also. Those are out there.
4 TDs for the wide receivers.
4.
I love it.
That quick release, the O-line doing its job. I need Jason Peters there in McGovern's spot because you know what's going to happen. Sean McVay is going to see McGovern there, and he's going to line Aaron Donald up there right away and wreak havoc immediately and try and change the tone of the game.
You can tell our offense moves the ball better when Jason Peters is on the field. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%.
The Lunatic, I love it. He says Turpin will have a return for TD. I don't know if he's saying punt or he's just saying return. But he'll have his TD. I love it.
Okay. We like it. Oh. Wait.
What is it?
Wait, where's your bold prediction? I don't see it. Come on, Professor O. Yeah. Where is it?
Oh, he's probably typing it out. But all right. Yeah. So what is your score prediction for this game?
My score prediction is going to be 31-17. And I know
31-17. Okay.
I know this isn't going with the trend of the points going down, but there is Cooper Kupp that we have to think about on this field.
Yes, I agree.
So I am going 31-17.
Okay, there's Professor
wait.
Rose.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me find it here. Here we go.
Okay.
Interesting.
That could
All right.
that could happen. I could see that. Fossil's aggressive.
Right. And he's going back and wanting to stick it to his old team.
Okay. My prediction is that the Cowboys win this game 26-13. I think you're going to get some field goals from the Rams, and you're getting some TDs and some field goals from the Cowboys. So 26-13, Cowboys win. So last week I announced on the show that we were going to do a prediction contest, and whoever could correctly predict the score, they had to get both teams correctly. It's not just the score. You had to say which team scored what points. And nobody won. And I get it because it was a really, really odd score of 25-10. That's a hard prediction to make. It's 25-10. There were a couple people who said 24-10. So they got close, but close only works in horseshoes and hand grenades, people. Not in the pick six competition. So we are going to relaunch that competition, and we're going to have it this week as well with a free t-shirt from Twisted Gorilla. So I will tweet out again this in the coming days, either probably later today or tomorrow, to make your score predictions. You have to put your score predictions on my post. You can't just put them somewhere else. You have to put them on my post, and you have to say the score and what team is going to score each one. So Cowboys this score, Rams this score. You have to follow Pick Six Sports, follow me, follow Cam, and follow Twisted Gorilla. Give them some love too, because that's where the shirts are coming from. So that is going to be the competition. Correctly predict each team's score. Even Rams fans can play. Anybody can play. They can say, hey, Rams are going to win and they're going to score this. Doesn't matter. Whoever gets the correct score exactly right is going to get a free t-shirt from Twisted Gorilla, courtesy of Pick Six Sports. You will be able to go on the website, choose which shirt you want, let us know, and we will have that shirt sent to you. So that is the competition. We're going to go until somebody wins. So hopefully somebody wins this year. Hopefully we get hopefully
we've got 2 of them to give away. Somebody somewhere get it right.
Yes, Professor O, that is my Twitter handle there at the J.A. Massey. So just make sure you follow, look for the tweet so you can put your score prediction in there. And we're hoping somebody wins this week. And it's a Cowboys fan who predicted the Cowboys to win. That's the most important part.
Right. Well, we want to thank you all for being with us. Tomorrow night, Freestyle Friday. Don't miss it out. You already know our guy Nix will have a space before. He'll probably have a space after. Who knows? He could have a space tonight. He's always floating in space somewhere. So, and then
there might be a space going on right now. I haven't checked, but Nix is always on space.
Right. So make sure you tune into there. More than likely, who knows, people could be jumping on after the game for a post-game little powwow on all that. Make sure you hit up on Tuesday, Stevie J and I will have Dalton Miller on as our special guest.
Awesome.
The noontime kind of works out because Dalton's living across the pond now, so that noon hour was not interfering with his bedtime, so that's going to be great. And then next Wednesday, hit with Nix and Professor O, Spoonie, Mary on the Pick Six Sports on Wednesday night. So
make sure you like this video, subscribe, hit that little bell so you can get notifications whenever one of the Pick Six Sports shows goes live.
Right. Thanks, y'all. And you know what to do. Go Cowboys.